Hi, this is Suzette, the Marriage Warrior, and today we're going to talk about emotional abuse. I know that's a hot topic word in our culture right now, and sometimes it's misunderstood and mislabeled. Sometimes when the emotional abused person is just as emotionally abusive to the other person, and then they say, I'm being emotionally abused, that's victimizing. A relationship takes two people, and you are part of that relationship. And so to just all of a sudden say, I'm emotionally abused, even though you might feel emotionally abused, I want you to be cautious about that. So let's first of all define emotional abuse. So emotional abuse is when you are targeted, when you are gaslit, where you're trying to talk about one topic and they switch to another topic and you don't feel like your emotions are being heard. Emotional abuse is when someone is hiding money from you, stealing from you, talking about you behind your back. Anything that could cause you to feel that you are not aware of what's going on and they're doing something to you as a target, you will then feel emotionally abused. When you're trying to talk to someone and they just will not listen, your emotions will feel abused. So emotional abuse is something that occurs in relationships naturally when there is a conflict. So you need to understand that your partner could be feeling emotionally abused as well. And so it's not necessarily the abuse word. It might just be in the context of y'all's communication. And obviously, if someone is screaming at you and cursing at you and pushing you around emotionally, that for sure is emotional abuse. But the target of the person being abused has to look at themselves and say, okay, how am I part of this dynamic? A lot of people that I work with, women specifically, feel very victimized. And I have to point out to you, okay, this man who's trying to provide for you and trying to take you on dates and trying to communicate with you, and all you're doing is shutting down, he might feel emotionally abused as well. And so women have to also look at the fact that they're a partner in this, not just a victim needing to be rescued. When you can look at your own part in the dynamic, that's when ownership will help to heal you. Now, if you try to look at your own part and you try to come to the table with trying to figure out the communication dynamic and talk to your partner about, okay, I want to know how I'm hurting you as well, and your partner is unwilling to talk to you and just shuts you out and shuts you down, that could then be considered emotionally abusive. However, if you back the timeline up and you see what they're doing is really just coping mechanisms, then the timeline might tell you why they started coping that way. It doesn't give them an excuse to do what they're doing, but the timeline might actually tell you, okay, I remember the time that I did such and such and that person got mad and then they stopped talking to me because they didn't feel heard or they didn't feel understood or whatever. You could back the timeline up and be able to take some ownership, because when you take ownership, that's the first part of healing. Defensive postures are natural. We all have them. When we're hurt, we immediately put up a wall of defense to protect ourselves, but they don't heal. And so if you're really looking for healing in your relationships and your own heart, then you will want to find places to take ownership. And when someone is confronting you about something you're doing, it doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. And I think that's what we're all fearful of, is that, oh my gosh, I'm doing something wrong. It doesn't mean that. It means that the way they perceived it, or when you were doing something, you weren't really sensitive to how it might be impacting the other person. And so all of that is part of the emotional connection y'all need to be able to, work out together and learn each other. But the abuse part is sometimes just as much the person that's feeling abused, their fault, as it is the abuser. Now, I don't want anyone to stay in emotional abuse. So if you are in emotional abuse, you have to make a change, either by confronting, if the partner doesn't want to confront, getting help with the partner to confront, to find out so that the abuse will stop. If you're with a partner that will not get any help with you, will not talk with you, then the emotional abuse is going to continue to tear you down. And the more it tears you down, the more you're going to lose yourself, and your identity is going to be all caught up in that. And it's going to create soul wounds that may take a long time to repair. So I would encourage you to try to talk with the person, and if they don't want to talk, get some help. A lot of times people don't want to talk because they feel like they need a mediator, because they also have been offended and they're afraid it's going to just escalate if the couple talks together. So, but if they're not willing to, you've got to pull yourself out of that circumstance so that you don't continue to destroy yourself. I hope you like this content, and I hope it's helpful, because this is a hot topic, emotional abuse, and I don't want people to just throw out the topic as if they're just a victim without really trying to look at what part do you play in the partnership. Please like and subscribe if you want more of this content.